Hey, thank you for joining us. This is Cheryl Blanton with JB Realty Group in Corsicana, and I'm here with Karla Murphy from Community National Bank. She's the Senior VP Mortgage Manager here, and just a plethora of knowledge, so I've solicited her help to kind of do a little video style informational discussion about first-time home buying, or you don't even have to be a first-time home buyer. You could be a third-time home buyer and you just haven't bought a home in 30 years. So we hope to address some of your questions, concerns, and here we go.
And kind of get you on the road to home ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Karla, start us off.
Well, I kind of compiled over the last month or so just some questions for first-time home buyers that and other just buyers in general that kind of just seem lost with what to do to get started. So if you want, I can just kind of go through there and we'll just kind of chime in and talk about the details. So
yes.
One of the first questions that I usually get is, why should I buy instead of rent? So Cheryl, you want to talk about that?
I will say that probably half of my phone calls and inquiries are rental. People want rental property, and especially in Corsicana, that's kind of, we're half and half. But over time, you kind of learn that there are benefits to trying to save some money for a down payment and making a purchase of your own home, and kind of explain.
It's a great tax deduction. Obviously, you can write off your mortgage interest. And renting, obviously, you're paying towards someone else's equity. You're furthering their financial stability instead of your own. So it's very, very important to if you're able to go ahead and try to make that first step toward your future. So it's a great deduction for your taxes. It's also a great safe investment versus the stock market. Real estate has always been one of the safest investments that you can make.
And wouldn't you say most of the time your rent is more than your mortgage would be if you?
Most of the time, because obviously you're making their mortgage payment plus you're making
making them money,
a profit. You're making them a profit monthly.
Right.
So yes, typically your mortgage payment is going to be less than your comparable home versus your rent payment. So, can I become a home buyer even if I have had bad credit?
Question of the hour. Yes.
In the past. Yes, exactly. And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. There are very few of us that have ever had stellar credit from the beginning of time. So there are hurdles that you can overcome and get yourself to a place. There's a lot of different programs for a few credit hiccups. It's so really, I mean, we could go on and on, but
well, and even Dave Ramsey's style of cutting up your credit cards and having cash only is great in theory, but it can be hard for people to buy a home that have no credit cards.
Right. Oh yes, definitely. So it's all going to kind of come around to talking to professionals to help you build what you need to be on the path to purchase a home. But the answer is yes. If you've had bad credit in the past, you may have some credit issues right now. A lot of it are things that maybe it's not as bad as you think it is, and sometimes there's just some things you need to step back, you need to work on fixing, and then move ahead. But there's no time that someone can't start to prepare themselves and then be able to purchase a home. So, yes, that's definitely okay.
Good to know.
Should I use a real estate agent? I get that all the time. And how do I find one?
Well, of course, I am a real estate agent and it is my profession, and I am a professional. So kind of what people say, would you use just somebody off the street to operate on your heart? I mean, not that significant, but it is my profession and it is what I dedicate my extra time reading about. I take continuing education classes. And bottom line, I think, and other people would have another opinion, but when I work with when I work with a buyer or a seller, I am strictly representing them, and I will do anything in their best interest to make sure that they get the best deal for the best price, and just kind of hold their hands to the process, because a lot of times, for sale by owner and different situations, they can kind of blow up at the closing table, and there's, you don't have anyone to fall back on to represent you. So it's our fiduciary, once we work with a buyer, to see them through to the end of the process. So
most definitely. And when people ask me that same question, I always say, you want to go ahead and have someone that does represent you. You need that person who will help you write that contract, that will be in, just look out for you through the transaction. When they come to me, to the lender without a realtor, it's always harder on more stressful for the person.
So you do
So
see
it is extremely important that they go ahead and enlist the help of an agent to help them, and just so that you know that you're not overpaying for something.
Right.
So because the agent knows the market. I mean, just someone to fight on your behalf, and not necessarily is it always a fight,
Right.
but it's
You're your advocate.
That's
for
right,
sure.
your advocate.
But I mean, I get super sad when I hear about somebody that bought a for sale by owner in our neighborhood or in our community, that they paid $10 to $12 per square foot more than the market's going for. So it's not my business, but it breaks my heart when people make those.
Yeah, and it's just better. It's better, like you said, just even in. I mean, you wouldn't have someone that's not a professional helping you operate on your heart.
I'm trying, maybe electrician. I'm trying to.
No, it's a good analogy. It's fine, but because that is the largest purchase that they may ever make. I mean, it's a big deal. So for them to trust an agent, and how do you find one? What would you say if somebody asked you that?
Okay, I think what I've kind of learned over the years is basically I love the referral method because it's who you know and it's kind of a network. Obviously, online is a big way of locating people or calling off a sign. But if I were trying to help my parents or somebody find somebody, I would definitely go with the referral method.
I agree. You always want to know who did a good job for someone else. How much money do I need to come up with to buy a home? So there's a lot of, it's probably less than you think. There are some things that you want to have prepared for. The first part is what you that you direct the customer to the client to right away is your earnest money.
Mm-hmm.
That's money that you're going to need kind of cash out of your pocket. It can range anywhere from $250 up to $1,000. Your agent will guide you on what would be appropriate for that transaction. You also have your appraisal, your inspection. Appraisal is something that you pay for before closing usually. Depending on the lender, but typically the appraisal is something that you're going to pay ahead of time. So your earnest money, your appraisal, your inspection, you'll want to do a home inspection probably. I'm sure you
We advise it for sure.
Yes,
I mean, you can waive that right, but
your appraisal is what they use to assess value, and it's for you and the lender. So that's a separate thing. Your inspection is to go in and find out if there's any problems with the home, things the appraiser's not going to be looking for, but plumbing, electrical, things like that you're going to need to know while you're trying to negotiate what condition the home is really in or where you're going to be out of pocket with repairs. So the inspection is very important. So those really three pieces are the things that you probably would need to have before closing. Would you say?
Yes.
That's about right. Then, of course, you have your down payment, if any, depending on the type of loan you're doing, as well as your closing costs, because there's a breakdown of your down payment plus the closing costs, and that all comes together at the closing table. So that's where you'll write your one cashier's check.
And that's where the title company comes into play.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a teamwork between buyer, seller, lender, agent, and title company.
Right. That's why it's very important to have the professionals so that they can line up a good team to help you.
So can you kind of elaborate real quickly with some questions that I've had? So the down payment is a percentage typically of the list price, sales
depending
price.
on the loan.
Okay.
Yes.
And then separate from that are the additional closing costs, and this is what gets confusing a lot of times.
Right. And the down payment is the part you're putting down ahead that you're not going to finance. So in other words, if it's a 3% down loan, it's your 3% that you're going to put down on the home. After that, you have your closing costs. Now, the realtor will help negotiate the closing costs, and in some cases, the sellers can pay partial closing costs. You can pay them all if you're getting but your agent will be able to help you along with your lender. They can work together with helping you just, kind of figure out what's best in that particular situation that will suit your needs, and negotiate that in the contract. But you have your down payment, your closing costs, but those things will be paid as one at the closing table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what you'll be qualifying on your loan.
So, and the appraisal is kind of another thing that factors in, that gets really touchy in negotiating at the end of before it's closing, if it doesn't appraise for the loan amount or the sales price, then you've got to go back and renegotiate everything.
Yeah, on a purchase, obviously it needs a price for the purchase price, and then a refinance, you're going to go with, the appraised value, whatever it happens to be. But your purchase price, the appraisal has to cover.
Gotcha.
All right. How do I know if I can get a loan? So basically, you need to start trying to get your finances and your thinking straight ahead of time. Really, it's best to try to get pre-qualified for a loan before you even start looking. Wouldn't you say that's probably best?
I think a lot of agents, not myself, but a lot of agents won't even touch a buyer until they've been pre-qualified.
And one of the reasons you do that is not just because you just want to be hard about it. You want to not show a customer something that they're going to be disappointed that they can't afford.
Right.
You don't want someone going out looking at a home that's $300,000 and because they haven't talked to a lender about what the payment would be with taxes, insurance, and everything included, and then they are dissatisfied when you go take them and look at $250,000 homes because it's a little bit different than what they were looking at. So it's better to have a realistic expectations early on.
And it definitely helps the agent and saves time.
That's right, and can save money. And can save money because if you can't qualify for that loan that you think you're going through with, you can lose a lot of money because your earnest money that you've put down, and so it can be a lot of wasted money that you didn't need to do. How do I find a lender? Now, I agree with you. The way you find a realtor is a lot of through, asking friends and family. Ask them who they used and did a good job for them. It's important. It's you don't want to be a number. You want to contact. You want somebody who you can walk in and say, I'm working with so and so, and you've done loans with them. So if
well, the relationship is a key to it all, as far as I'm concerned. If you have a back and forth conversation with the lender, with the buyer, with the title company, it just makes it better for everyone. And I typically, because it is a small town and I do, it's a community, I will, if a buyer hasn't already contacted a lender, I'll give them 3 names that I know, 3 or 2 names that I know do great work, and that's kind of...
Yeah. It's good. It's always better to get a referral for it instead of walking in off the street, unless you know of someone already. But realtors work with people all day, every day in this type of situation. They know who's done a really good job for them. So it's good to ask them. So I've heard of this person, but what do you think? Who has done a great job for you? And they don't really get anything out of that except that they know that lender is really going to work hard and do a good job for you and make the transaction go smooth. So I say the way you find a lender is ask. Ask your neighbor who just closed on their loan, who did their loan. Ask your realtor if you're working one at that point. Sometimes you might go to a lender first, and then the lender refers the agent. Yeah,
it does happen a lot.
So, but it's good to just ask. Don't just go out blindly and try to find someone, because you do want to be more than a number. It's a big decision. So, in addition to the mortgage payment, what other costs are there to consider? Pretty much you have to kind of consider your taxes, your insurance, because you've got your principal and interest for your mortgage payment, but then you also have your taxes, your insurance, your homeowners association dues if there are any. Those are the things that you will pay every month in your payment. There are different ways to structure it where you pay those separately, but typically you have to qualify for them all in the payment. So that's something that you pay in addition to the actual mortgage payment.
And if you fall in love with a 4,000 square foot house, you're going to realize that you're going to be paying utilities on a 4,000 square foot house. So
and the agent can
hopefully have an estimate before any
on utilities and things. Good, yeah, because that is important. A lot of people will go out and find a foreclosure that's that's listed
Great
for
deal.
$150,000, but it's like you said 4,000 square feet, and all of a sudden the utilities you can't do anything else but sit home and pay for your utilities.
Get you.
Yeah. So
a heater.
Exactly. Plug it in. How do I apply for a mortgage? So once you've contacted your lender and you find one that you want to use, I would just say call the lender and find out how they work the best. A lot of it's online, so that's quick. You can do it from your office. You can do it from home. You can do it from from Starbucks. You can do it from wherever. So find out what's best for the lender. I love the loan applications done online. I love them done in person. However's easier for you. It's just that nowadays, you know, with all the technology, you can make it quick and simple. Our online application takes all of 10 minutes, and you only have to do it one time.
Right.
So it's real quick and easy, and then we call you back and go over your
So it's kind of
options.
appeasing different generations, because millennials want to do online, older generation, they want to sign, they want to see you in person. So
Right. So a lender that can what's the word I'm looking for? Accommodate.
right.
They can accommodate both in any way instead of just going online and that's the only way they can do it. You need a lender that will accommodate both, whatever your comfort level is. Then let's see. I know there are many types of mortgages. How do I know what type is best for me? So that kind of goes back to the conversation that you have with the lender. The realtors can let you know. Your realtor can let you know kind of what they know is out there. And then, but it's a discussion you need to have with your lender. There could be a loan that sounds fantastic, but that's just not maybe the best loan for you. If you're putting down 20%, you don't want to do an FHA loan. That's not going to be the best loan for you. More than likely, in very few cases, it still would be, but very few cases it would.
Well, I definitely trust the lender when it comes to
and I
that
feel
part
the
of it.
same way about
Okay.
the agent as far as all that with the contract and the appraisal.
You
and
tell
all
me.
of that. Yeah. So basically, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's a very specific, tailored to suit your needs. Once me as the lender looks at your whole application, the whole credit profile, I'll be able to see if it were me, what would I do, knowing the products that I have. And that's what I'm going to put you in and line you up with, so that you can, kind of like I tell my customers, it's like I would treat you like I would treat my sister. This is what I have available. If I were you, this is what I would do. And then we work back and forth to find out exactly the way it needs to be done. And then communicate with the realtor on the type of loan you're looking for, if you're going to need seller paid closing cost assistance.
which is very common.
Yes, it's very common. But we would work together to help you get your offer, you know, accepted. So.
And seller concessions it's on like the 7th hidden page of the contract, and it's where a buyer needs the sellers to contribute towards closing, and that's a whole nother negotiation of, do you raise the price, do you come down on the price? It's all just kind of got to be market based on the
Another
market.
thing I definitely leave to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Exactly. So anyway, when I find a home, how much should I offer?
And that would probably be deferred to me for that, or your real estate agent. And the first thing I do is run comps. I mean, see what has sold in the past 90 days, 180 days. Sometimes we have to go back farther in Corsicana, just depending on the location. And that's a big determining factor of what we're going to offer. And because most of the time, unless it's a cash buy, we've got to take in the appraisal factor. And you always want to think like an appraiser, but you want to get the best deal for your buyer. So it's got to be very synergetic to get it all kind of figured out.
Yeah, very good. What do I do if my offer is rejected?
Well, you could cry first, but I mean, basically, you try to counter. First of all, you try to ask the seller to counter on behalf of your buyer. If that doesn't happen, then I'm the one that believes that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And many times I've looked back at a buyer who ended up didn't get the first offer they wanted, but got the next one, and it was their dream home. So you just kind of have to just trust the situation and know that it may not be the right one for the right reason. So,
and sometimes depending on how the offer is presented. I mean, a lot of times some things can be worked out with a loan, where you may not need to ask for as much seller closing costs. I mean, there's those where the agent being your guide to help you know what to do in that situation is the most important thing. Yeah, and then the lender, if there's anything we can do on my end to help make the offer better, you know, we're going to look at everything to try to make it work. But you're so right, and I have had that happen so many times, is that people have lost a deal, they're devastated.
Right.
They find another property, and they're like, I am so glad that first one didn't work out.
Let me count how many times I've heard people
Yes,
say
yes, and it happens all the time.
Uh-huh.
So never get discouraged or give up. There is always a way. There's always a way. What happens at closing? Finally, when you get that offer accepted and we're there.
Closing, that takes all of us, plus the title company. This has gotten to be, I guess, since October 2014. Is that when all the lending closing disclosures changed? And of course, you've really got to manage your buyer because there's a lot of things that I as an agent can't control, the title company can't control, and Karla can't control. It's all about federal regulations. And there's this 3-day wait period that can make a family homeless for a few days if they think they're going to close on the 12th and they can't close till the 15th. It gets very precarious.
Well, and that's what is important by working with a lender who really has done it and is good at it. That's where your referrals come from.
That's huge.
Yeah, so you need to work with someone who knows that, and that way those things don't catch you at the last minute unaware.
And because that is one thing that you just kind of like want to just crawl under the table because your buyer is upset, rightly so, but it's all contingent on so many other things. So
when it all works, and the way I make sure it works out, and is that when you come to closing, that should be the happy time. That should be when you're there to sign the mountain of paperwork that you have to sign. But it's a culmination of everything. It's when everything is going to be done. You have your title company there to help you. Sometimes the buyer, sometimes the sellers are there as well. It just depends.
Sometimes it's joint.
And you come there, you sign your papers, you get, it's pretty much stuff your lender has probably already told you. They should have told you, so that nothing is a surprise. And that's when you'll sign all your documents. You'll exchange the funds for the closing, your down payment, your closing cost, whatever was your part. And the loan, then the title company will disperse the money exchanges hands.
Which may take if it's an end of the day closing, it's going to probably not fund till the next day.
It may not. And then the funding happens, and then you're done. Then you get the keys. That's what I'm jealous of you, is that you get to hand people the keys.
That is the fun part.
That is the fun part. So really, that's what we're all working for, is toward that closing, to see, your faces light up, and it's just a big deal. That's what's bigger than both of us, is that we're to be able to make a part, and make that big part of someone's dreams, a reality. So it's cool.
It is.
Just real quick, I was going to do some do's and don'ts, and I know that you'll want to chime in on a few of these, because we've all had
this
these
is kind of what
catch people.
started this whole dialogue about this. So yes.
Yeah. So just some things that I just kind of jotted down, thinking through it. Once you've been pre-qualified for a loan, these are just do and don'ts. These are things that you want to do and things you don't want to do. Do not consolidate your credit card debt. Don't consolidate debt. Leave your debt the way it is when you got pre-qualified for your loan. Do not change employers. Now, there are some cases where if you change employers, it's okay. If you're going because you're going to, you're advancing in your career, you're going to make a little more money at the new job, it's okay, but talk to your loan officer first. Don't have that to be something they find out before closing. It can mess up your whole deal and cause time delay. So don't change employers, especially without letting your loan officer know. Do not change or rearrange bank accounts. Don't do a lot of extra transfers from one account to another. Do not close bank accounts out and then start with another lending institution. If you want to do that, try to save it until the end if you possibly can. You want to just leave your finances exactly the way they were when you first applied. You can do all that afterward when nobody is really, it doesn't really matter, but just hold tight with your bank accounts the way they are.
And for example, I just had a closing a couple weeks ago where I was the seller agent, but the buyer sold their home and made a profit, and instead of just holding on to that money until everything else was done on the seller's side of it, they went and paid off all their credit cards to get out of debt, and no,
it's a great financial decision, but it's not the right time for that. It's not the right time for it. So let's see.
Consult with your lender.
Yes, definitely. Do continue to save. I don't know if I said that one yet. Do continue to save. Don't save any, but do not make any large undocumented.
Don't buy a car.
Well, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But do not. That's coming.
Okay.
That's always a big one. Do not make any undocumentable deposits in the bank. So if you've got a bunch of cash at home laying there under your mattress or in the freezer, wherever, I just probably gave away my mother's.
The freezer. Okay.
The place my mother hides her money. I won't mention any names.
That's a good one.
Anyway, so you don't want to make any cash deposits that you can't document where they came from, because that can be that can make your loan be denied if you can't document where your money's coming from. So that's a big thing that a lot of people don't know. You can't just deposit cash and be good, like, oh good, I'm ready to close. If you have cash, that's something that you need to let your lender know up front. So anytime you're continuing to save, by saving, I mean whatever you're getting out of your paychecks, when you have auto draft, continue to save that money. Try to save it so that you've got more money when you go to close instead of less. Do not let anyone pull your credit. You don't want inquiries, because at the end there will be another credit report pulled, and they're going to want to see if you're shopping, if you're trying to get more debt. That can be a concern. Don't take any new credit. Don't take out any new credit. Do not buy a car. This is not the time to buy a car. Don't buy your furniture yet, even though it's really hard. Do not buy appliances yet. Just hang tight. Once the loan closes and funds, then you can go do what you need to with that.
That's a biggie.
It is a biggie. That should have been number one.
I know.
Right? Do contact your lender before changing anything with your finances. That if you can just remember that one thing, contact your lender before you really change anything. Do start gathering your pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, anything that you think that's going to help the lender get things ready. Because they will need a paper trail. That's right. And that's something that you're going to give to the lender once you have a contract or a full application done. So, and really the biggest deal is do ask questions. Do ask questions of your lender. Do ask questions of your realtor. I think you would agree that the more the communication is open.
And if I don't know the answer, I will find it.
That's
I'll
right.
Ask the attorney at the title company,
right.
my broker.
Right. I always tell my customers, do not sit there worried about things. If you have a concern, if you have any kind of question, you call me. I'm here to make it easier for you. It is stressful. It's a huge decision.
A huge deal.
It is,
and that's why I get so passionate, and my husband's sitting over there, that it's a home. It's your home, and it's huge.
It's a big deal. So
it's emotional.
So no sense sitting there unaware or having all these questions and thinking, it's a dumb question, because nothing is. And in this situation, really, it's not. You can't be expected to know everything. Right. That's what we've spent all these years learning to do is that. So we don't expect you to know. So ask questions. Don't let it be more stressful than it needs to be. And the more clarifications that you get from us, the better the whole thing will be for you. So that's really what I would want you to take away from this, is to make sure you just have that good open communication, and don't sit there by yourself at night at 2 a.m. stressing out about questions that you don't want to ask. Just ask them. And that's really all I've got.
Well, we covered a lot of stuff. I mean, this is a little thing that I've told even my 18-year-old son to even start getting a credit card and buy 1 tank of gas a month on it and pay it off. I've learned over time that the more you can establish that good credit, the better off you're going to be.
Start now. There's no time like the present. And if you ever had, if you even have the inkling of wanting to own a home, anytime in the future, go ahead and talk to that lender. Call me. Find out what it is that you need to do to get your credit established. And because you do, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil that you do need to establish credit. You need to owe someone to get it established.
It doesn't make sense to some people, but it's the truth. So thank you all for listening to us. Maybe we've told you one thing you might not have known before. If I can help you at all, it's Cheryl Blanton, and probably the best way to reach me is my phone or text 903-229-0663. I'm with JB Realty Group, And thank you, Karla, so
Thank
much.
you.
Give your
It's Karla Murphy. I'm with Community National Bank and Trust of Texas here in Corsicana. We have 13 locations, so that comes in handy. But the easiest way to apply is to call me at 903-641-4570, and you can apply in person or you can apply online. It's www.mybanktx.com.
plethora of knowledge right here. So anyway, thank y'all.
Thank you so much.